Okay, the big event we are looking forward to is the G20 Summit, which India has got the presidency of, and we've got Mr. Hardeep Puri, of course, apart from being a minister, former diplomat. Thank you very much for speaking to us. Okay, we are looking at this event as yet a feather in the crown of India. That's what is being talked about. Do you think the G20 Summit is going to add on to the stature of India further, or is just a routine thing?
I like the way you refer to me as a former diplomat, as if that's past tense, and now I have a present tense. Look, let me tell you, once a diplomat, hopefully always a diplomat. But will G20 add to our growing stature? I think that question answers itself. The G20 was established sometime around 2008. There have been G20 summits in different countries of the world, in different world capitals. But the G20 summit, which will take place here in another week or 10 days, is sui generis. It's in a class apart. It's the first time in the history of the G20 that a serving head of state or government has brought in a hands-on, people's orientation to the event. I mean, the event is not just being held, or the preparatory events were not just being held in the capital. They've been held in God knows how many states and how many cities. I have personally attended G20 events in Ahmedabad, in Bangalore, in several other places. And look at the canvas. There are some subjects which were always traditionally on the focus of the G20. But I think the context of India with a very highly resonating post-COVID story and a story on digital inclusion, a story on financial inclusion, and a story which today encompasses everything on the earth. And sorry to add this, we are on the moon and over the moon. I mean, you know, the reports coming in from the BRICS summit in South Africa, that was the flavor of the whole summit. And frankly, it's not something that is being celebrated by, 1.4 billion Indians or 140 crore Indians. It's being celebrated by countries all over the world. I mean, I heard a story that the host was sitting next to the Honorable Prime Minister, and he said to him, "I'm very happy sitting next to you because some of that, that feeling of elation, that celebration is rubbing off. A lot of people are taking joy." What's the reason for that? India has a unique position in the world. And after 2019, let me start. 2019 was a setback. After 2014, the good work which had been done, and I choose my words very carefully, there was an acceleration. In 2014, you were the 10th largest economy. Then came Mr. Modi. He fast-forwarded, accelerated. You're not celebrating that you're the 5th largest economy today. Don't make a mistake. Well, you're celebrating that you're soon going to be the 3rd largest economy. Where does that confidence come from? All these digital inclusion, I mean, just look at the scale of what is happening. What is the percentage of payments, percentage of GDP that were made digitally in 2014? What is it today? Mind-boggling. What is how many kilometers of roads did you make in 2014? How many do you make now? What was the amount of waste that we processed in 2014? I think, 15-16% according to the figure sent by the state. Today it's 76%. So you jumped. Now, today the G20 comes at a time where a rising India, on the way to defining the new India, right, is being applauded all over, not only for its own achievements. Health sector is a case in point. 224 crore vaccines.
So I was coming to that.
Manufactured and distributed free. 193 countries in the world. About 150 are thanking India for the vaccine. 100 of them have got it free. It's a completely new ball game.
So I was just coming to that because this whole tagline of Vishwamitra, the friend of the world. You think India can be that? Because our COVID story particularly, where the COVID Maitri, which we send several consignments of COVID vaccines to many countries. You think this whole idea of being Vishwamitra, the Prime Minister's dream, you can think it can come true?
100%. But it's not just COVID. There's an earthquake in Turkey. The Honorable Prime Minister, if I remember correctly, was sitting in Bangalore. And he, from there, made a phone call And Delhi started sending relief assistance for the earthquake. Not just relief assistance. Some heavy lifting that was required in order to, help remove people, buildings, the debris. That is what India does. No, you can say India's had a tradition, but today you're doing it. I mean, if one country declares war on another, I'm talking about February 2022, you have 28,000 Indian students trapped in the Ukraine. Which other country in the world sent people to bring those young students back? I mean, a Prime Minister sends 4 or 5 of his cabinet colleagues to do that. And listen, you didn't bring back only students from India. You also brought back students from the Western world. You also brought back students from India's neighboring country. So, Vishwa clear, Maitri clear, but it's not confined to just vaccines. It's confined to how you act, how you reach out to people. Why the World Bank, why the Gates Foundation think that what you're doing for India is replicable on a larger scale in the global south. That is what India's and the G20 is all about.
Okay, so before I let you go, there is a certain amount of cynicism and criticism which comes in from the opposition parties on 2 grounds. That one is that there are incidents which take place over here which gives us a bad press abroad. That's one. You think that's going to be a dampener. And second is the opposition parties, particularly Congress, say what's the big deal about G20?
I'll tell you something. Since you're much younger, cynicism and irrelevance go together. So the more irrelevant somebody becomes, the more cynical they tend to be. Chandrayaan, what's the big deal? Panditji established a space program. Look, I'm a great admirer of Panditji and all those who were the first generation who fought for our independence. But not in that priority. This thing goes off to Mahatma Gandhi, Subhash Chandra Bose and others. But Panditji left us for his heavenly abode in 1964. ISRO was founded in 1969. So no matter how much of credit you want to give him, do it with a degree of circumspection. So opposition, something happens here. Something happens everywhere.
No, but they're also accusing the Prime Minister of being churlish and not allowing the CM. And that example of Indira Gandhi meeting N.T. Ramarao.
Oh, come on. Let's get serious. These guys are no one to talk about how we deal with the states. Okay? There's an article in the Constitution, I'm sure Varish Patrakas like you are very familiar with the Constitution. Read it. There's an article, I think it's called 356. And I once did a study on how many times it's been invoked since the Constitution, the article, 115 times, somewhere. How many times invoked by one particular party and how many times by one person? So who dealt with whom, how? I mean, that's a matter of record. So I would just say, not with a pinch, madam, with a bag full of salt. These are guys who are now trying to work out terms of engagement whereby each one of them can be Prime Minister for a short period of time. You understand? Mamta Didi is also very eligible. Nitish Babu is very eligible. At a given point of time, Kejriwal wants to do that. Sometimes in conjunction with the Congress, sometimes against it. So have a heart. As I said, cynicism on their behalf and their irrelevance go together. The country is in a celebratory mood, and I think that's what is important.